Hello all and welcome to my page. I'm Marcus Cash. Down below you will see my media handles for basically everything. YouTube, Instagram, you name it. I appreciate you stopping by the channel. Before I get into my rant of this episode, be sure to click the bell, like, share, subscribe, comment away, and share with any and all. I do appreciate your time and thank you in advance. Welcome back to the page, everybody. I'm Marcus Cash. This is the 11th edition of Bruce Prichard's Monday Night Raw. Now, this is for August 24th, 2020, and I'm trying to organize these recaps better for you guys based on the input you've had. So things are going to be a little bit out of order, but I'm going to be mixing everything together that follows the same theme. Okay, we start off big story of the night. It's an angle with Keith Lee, who is debuting this week on Monday Night Raw. So him losing the NXT Championship to Karrion Kross a couple days ago on TakeOver 30 doesn't matter. He has no interest in the belt back.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
He has no interest in getting retribution, choice of words there, against Karrion Kross. He's just over it, I guess. But Keith Lee's debuting tonight, and he's going to be thrusted into the Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre angle.
Love that!
Night starts off Drew McIntyre welcoming Randy to challenge for the title again.
Then, now, and forever.
Randy Orton is out. He's interrupted by Keith Lee. Keith Lee versus Randy Orton is happening tonight for whatever reason. Classic Vince McMahon though. They screwed with Keith Lee's theme music. It's awful now. They let him have his intro to his theme song, but they completely got rid of everything else and they gave him generic Create a Wrestler rock song number 3.
I meant to do that.
They also force him to wrestle in like a black slimming vest to cover his stomach, but also shorts of some kind, not basketball shorts, but still not his trunks that he's always worn.
Excuse me.
Now, during that match that'll happen in the semi-main event between Keith Lee and Randy Orton, a little bit of back and forth, not too much of a Keith Lee showcase, but they have the spot. Orton hits the rope-assisted DDT on Keith Lee. He looks like he's about to do his coil up snake-like for the RKO, but Drew McIntyre appears, pulls him out of the ring. They have a brawl. McIntyre chases off Randy Orton. We get a non-finish because Randy Orton disappears and Keith Lee disappears as well. Felt very weird. As it turns out though, it's because they have to save the actual match. They're going to do Keith Lee versus Randy Orton in 6 days at Payback, the network special they booked 7 days after SummerSlam for whatever reason.
Because you don't have any friends.
Now, backstage, McIntyre's a little upset. He says he doesn't need Keith Lee to fight his battles for him. And right when he says that, Randy Orton attacks him and punt kicks him in the head. I guess he does need Keith Lee to fight his battles for him, even though Drew McIntyre is the WWE champion and should be the man around these parts and should be the one laying people out and not constantly being laid out himself. I don't know. But he gets punt kicked in the head, and the reports after that is that he may have suffered a fractured skull.
Can we get serious now?
Make it make sense.
From the punt kick from Randy Orton's foot, his bionic foot, I guess. I don't know when it became bionic to fracture people's skulls, but that's the concern now, is Drew McIntyre's title reign and possibly career and possibly much worse may be in jeopardy. They can't just say his life would be in jeopardy. Randy Orton and his super foot may have put Drew McIntyre on the shelf which would assure that he wouldn't be interjecting himself into the Keith Lee versus Randy Orton match at Payback this weekend. But it leaves a lot of gray area and questions for the whole him being the world champion thing right now. So, not sure if Drew McIntyre is legit injured. Hopefully not. Not sure if he needs to be written off of TV or just written off of being able to interfere in that match. But either way, this excuse was pretty flimsy, I would say. Now, speaking of flimsy, next topic we're going to cover is the 3 storylines within the women's division that WWE Raw is trying to run. Let's start with the main story. We have Nia Jax, who's apparently reinstated just because Pat Buck decided to back off of his suspension of her. Didn't really give it much more of an explanation. But she's back, she's reinstated. She makes her presence known during a Shayna Baszler versus Bayley match, which happens because they were the 2 that were involved in the finish to the tag match last week. But Nia Jax does interrupt. She attacks Shayna Baszler. Sasha and Bayley are the heels that they've been for the past forever long at this point, and they're kind of just watching these 2 brutal women going after each other. And Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax have a moment where they decide to randomly and abruptly stop fighting each other and half-heartedly try to go after Sasha Banks and Bayley.
It's time to move on, so let's move on.
They were just trying to kill each other half a second ago, and they stop for a second, look at each other, and decide to go after the other 2 women. And then when Sasha Banks and Bayley run off, A, Shayna and Nia don't chase Sasha and Bayley, but B, Shayna and Nia don't go back to attacking each other either. Doesn't really make sense, felt very off, but as it turns out, rationale is going to be because Nia Jax wants the women's tag team titles. For some reason, even though she was saying that she wanted the Raw Women's title. And Shayna Baszler is willing to go after the women's tag team titles also. Even though she was saying she wants the Raw Women's title. So they're going to team up together to take on Sasha Banks and Bayley for the women's tag team titles this Sunday at Payback. But all 4 of them are heels.
Make it make sense.
I'm intrigued to see it. I'm very thrown off, which it's upsetting, but I kind of like, because I can appreciate still being surprised at some things. I'm assuming the inspiration here is the female power trip that they had with Sasha Banks and Bayley as inspiration. They are going to have them go up against the female version of the Bar in Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, 2 tough women, complete badasses who just can't seem to get along and just happen to end up tag teaming together and probably, hopefully, end up tag team champions, or at least a tag team chasing after the tag team titles for a while. I don't overly hate it. I've seen it a bunch. Sheamus and Cesaro just happens to be the most recent examples I can think of. But they've done that story to death. Never have I don't remember ever seeing that storyline with 2 women though. So, okay, let's see where that goes. Now, in terms of their secondary women's story, they had the Riot Squad and their honorary member, Bianca Belair.
I'm the strongest, the toughest, the roughest, the quickest, the smartest.
They were teaming together, 6-woman tag against Zelina Vega and the Iconics. I get the stories there, right? Riot Squad has the issues with the Iconics. Zelina Vega has the issues with Bianca Belair. put them all together. You've got a 6-woman tag. I like the fact that they didn't ignore the Bianca and Ruby dynamic from a couple weeks back, ever since Liv Morgan came back on television. I was worried they were just gonna like pretend that never happened, but no, for whatever reason, Bianca and Ruby are still friendly toward each other, even though it doesn't really have much of an explanation to it. But at least that fits. They've got their trio there. Zelina Vega got the entrance for her team. Apparently she's from Queens, New York. I never knew that. But the Iconics didn't get an entrance at all, and they've been pushing Peyton Royce to the moon the past couple of weeks. So to go from that, and Peyton Royce specifically winning every match she's involved in.
You were in it to win it. Wow, winning. Just winning. I'm going to win. You make a choice to win, and you win. Winning.
And Billie Kay being the one to lose any match that they lose the decision in. It feels weird that they suddenly don't get an entrance. I don't know. I'm nitpicking, but just felt odd. Bianca naturally hits the KOD on Zelina Vega because that storyline matters just a little bit more than the Iconics versus the Riot Squad at this point. So that's the decision that needs to be made to finalize a match. Nothing really too spectacular about it. Fairly quick overall. Curious to see where that goes, and more curious to see if they've already cooled off of the push that they were giving Peyton Royce. Let's hope not for Peyton's sake. Let's maybe hope so for the Iconics' sake. But let's hope that the Iconics as a whole aren't pushed all the way back down the ladder again. Now, I did say that there were 3 women's stories that they were doing at the moment. The third one, you can literally blink and you miss it since they started it. It's Lana and Natalya against Mickie James, who has made a comeback for really no reason whatsoever other than to get over Lana and Natalya as annoying heels, I'm guessing. The whole purpose of Lana and Natalya's tandem seems to be their obsession with the TikTok application. It's pretty much the only thing that comes out of their face all the time about how they try to make Mickie James relevant again, but she doesn't have a TikTok, so they put her on their TikTok, and
No one cares.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not very big on TikTok, so I don't really get it. But whatever. They cut a promo basically running her down, saying that Mickie James doesn't have any career highlights at all. So Mickie James comes out. She shoves Natalya down to the mat and kicks Lana in the head. And that felt a little backwards because Lana's the non-athlete, so she probably would have stayed down from getting shoved. Natalya is the actual wrestler, so you probably would have wanted to kick her in the head. If Natalya gets shoved down to the mat, why doesn't Natalya get back up to her feet and fight Mickie James after she kicks Lana in the head? It seemed backwards. It didn't seem like that was the actual spot, and I'm not sure who forgot what, or if this was just bad writing, but considering that the way the show has been going, I think I'm leaning toward the latter on this one. Now, in terms of mid to lower card programs, Aleister Black is back on the Kevin Owens show.
Guess who's back? 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 Guess who's back?
So at least Kevin Owens got some FaceTime this week. He did say he was going to invite Aleister Black out. He's wearing a bandana over one of his eyes to further sell Buddy Murphy, forcing Aleister Black's eye into the corner of the ring steps. He kind of looked like Snake from Metal Gear Solid for any of you who play video games out there. They show the highlights of that footage I just mentioned. I guess it ticks off Aleister Black. He decides to give a black mass kick to the face of Kevin Owens, and the heel turn for Aleister Black is on, and I'm very excited because Aleister Black should have never been a face in the first place, and if we can put some edge back on Aleister Black, I think we really got something here. Now, in terms of things I think we really had something with, and me now thinking I'm very disappointingly wrong about that, Angel Garza is the next topic. He has a match against Montez Ford, a singles match between these two tag team wrestlers. At this point, Montez Ford gets the win with his From the Heavens Frog Splash, which I don't hate. I think you need to protect Montez Ford, but I'm personally a big fan of Angel Garza. My understanding was that they were very much behind Angel Garza, so I don't understand not only his losses, but the fool that they've turned Angel Garza into with his schmoozing with not only Charlie Caruso, but now this woman named Demi from whatever reality television show she's from. He's gone from flirty playboy to like a complete sleazeball as he tried to flirt with both of those ladies at the same time at this point, and the whole thing's just a lot cringier than Ivar Viking's Mjolnir turkey leg. His Thor like hammer of a turkey leg that he has. It's just all awful. Apollo Crews, United States champion, he's gonna have an arm wrestling contest with Bobby Lashley for whatever reason. Apollo's gonna cheat to win that arm wrestling match by stomping on Bobby Lashley's foot before pinning his fist down. I like the edge to Apollo. I like that he's willing to cheat to win, but that also kind of feels like he should have been okay with joining the Hurt Business in the first place, and him being all high and mighty about standing up for his morals and not joining the Hurt Business but being a cheater also is a weird juxtaposition. I'm still hopeful Apollo Crews ends up joining, but I don't know. Seems less and less likely every week. Now, speaking of the Hurt Business, just staying on topic with them for a second, we had a fatal four-way for the 24/7 title. Shelton Benjamin, who is a part of the hottest stable on the show right now, doesn't get an entrance. He's facing Akira Tozawa, who has the newest gimmick in this match, who also doesn't get an entrance. They're facing Cedric Alexander, who has the brightest potential in this match, but also doesn't get an entrance. And the three of them are facing R-Truth, who not only gets an entrance, but gets an entrance that lasts longer than the entire match itself. It was a complete throwaway, and essentially Akira Tozawa's ninjas got involved. They held Shelton Benjamin back. This allowed Akira Tozawa to sunset flip R-Truth and get the pinfall and get the win, and he runs away with the title as Shelton Benjamin lays out the ninjas that were just holding him just fine at ringside, and Cedric Alexander was nowhere to be seen while this was happening. He had gotten laid out and he was just laying out at ringside somewhere. Usually a match helps one person, maybe helps them both, maybe helps one, maybe and hurts the other. It's not always the case where a match hurts everybody involved, especially when it's more than two people, and this is just damning to all four of the actual wrestlers involved. So not sure what the point of all this is. They can do a zillion other things for filler, especially when they have so much filler on the show already, like Underground, like the Viking Raiders, like Retribution, like Lana, Natalie, and Mickey James. Like, I can keep going. But speaking of the Hurt Business and speaking of Raw Underground, it's the next thing up on the list here. Bobby Lashley decides that he needs a fight. He's a little ticked off from the stunt that Apollo Crews pulled earlier. He's going to go into the Underground, completely beat up some jobber. Dolph Ziggler jumps onto the ring next, and it's a competitive match, Dolph Ziggler and Lashley, but it ends where Lashley pretty much hits a pounce on Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler jumps out of the ring. He hits his head, it looks like, on a wall, that they have outside of the ring there, and you'd imagine we're not going to get the advertised matchup of Dolph Ziggler versus Ivar Viking tonight because Dolph's knocked out now. Lashley stays in the ring though. He's going to beat up a few more jobbers throughout the night, but the other match of note is he then takes on Cedric Alexander, friend of Apollo Crews, who screwed over Lashley earlier in the night, someone who also has an issue with the Hurt Business in a rivalry that's going on there. He looked like he was going for a triangle choke, ends up getting an armbar, but he knocks Cedric out with hammer fists to the top of Cedric Alexander's head. Cedric's laid out cold. Lashley's now won 2 matches against official roster people, but probably about 4 or 5 matches at this point in the underground. The Viking Raiders do hit the ring. Eric and Ivar, who was supposed to have a Raw Underground match tonight, and the Viking Raiders get disposed of. Lashley and Shelton Benjamin, who joined the fight, put the Viking Raiders down fairly quickly and easily. Viking Raiders, who should be badasses in the underground, kind of got jobbed out there, where I wouldn't normally mind that for how goofy they are outside of the underground. I was hopeful that the badassery would come back with Shane McMahon's Playhouse. I guess not, so jobbing they can do. By the way, speaking of Shane McMahon's Playhouse, it turns out, I don't know if they've gotten the feedback or Shane McMahon's voice was hoarse or somebody just thought it would sound better, but Shane McMahon finally found a ring bell, I guess. So the matches no longer end with him just deciding to yell that's enough and break up a fight. They'll just hit a ring bell now to signal the end of the match before Shane much more calmly comes over to break those fights up. Main event of the evening, we have the Mysterios, Ray and Dominic. They're going to go on and face Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy, but there's never a finish to this match. They don't really give it much time. I think the match started when there was about 12 minutes left in the show, give or take. And the finish comes where Retribution comes out, because Retribution had not appeared at all on the show. Last week they had like a brief opening to Monday Night Raw and then they disappeared the rest of the show. This week they were just doing whatever else for the first 2 hours and 45 minutes and decided to end the show. But they go and they attack the Mysterios, specifically Dominic Mysterio, but also Ray. And this is the second consecutive match to end the show. The match before this being that Keith Lee and Randy Orton match. But it is the second consecutive match in a row to end the show that's not going to have a clear finish. So another no contest. Rollins and Murphy naturally run off. They're standing on the apron just watching. You could surmise that Seth Rollins is behind this attack from Retribution on the Mysterios. I don't think that's the case. I think that's a little too obvious. But either way, Retribution had no interest in taking out Seth Rollins or Buddy Murphy. They made sure to lay waste into the Mysterios. Let's hope that the Retribution team storyline and name, quite frankly, has some sort of payoff this coming Sunday at Payback, especially considering how those words are fairly similar to each other in the first place. Maybe that was the inspiration with forcing in the return of the Payback special, is to tie it into a Retribution storyline. I'd hope. It feels too easy, but also booking a pay-per-view right after a pay-per-view, particularly after one of your big four, doesn't really make sense otherwise but to be this obvious about it. Overall, clearly this was a reset episode with the potential removing of Drew McIntyre, the addition of Keith Lee, Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax teaming up all of a sudden, Aleister Black's heel turn, the insertion of Lashley into the United States title picture, thus removing MVP finally, but also removing Lashley from any serious world title conversation. So a lot of setting up the dominoes, Let's see how they play the dominoes to go with it. I'm not overly excited. This episode is actually more so the opposite of excitement, but hopefully, like I said, they'll build to something a lot better with the weeks to come. Not exactly holding my breath, but I do enjoy Keith Lee, so as long as they didn't water him down too much, he should be a pleasant addition and bring up parts of the show overall. Anyway, though, that was pretty much it. Short, sweet, and to the point. Nothing really too inspiring to yammer on about, in my opinion. But let's hear your opinions. Leave a comment down below. Like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you next time for Prichard's Raw. My battery is dying.